Hey, howdy, y'all. It's been a little bit, a couple weeks maybe, since I last talked about comics. I've been super busy. I've been at rock concerts and partying and just having fun. And then I got sick. If my voice sounds throat hoarse, it's actually from partying and from being loud. It is not from being sick, but I am sick. Um, I thought about waiting till I wasn't sick to record, but I just read this comic. I really got to talk about it. I might talk about some other comics. It's tempting to just talk about one, but like I feel like I can talk for hours and then I talk about a comic and it's like a minute. So just to fill time, I might talk about some other comics. But first, I really want to talk about this comic I just finished reading. Um, but you might notice I have a new hat. I'm probably going to be wearing it in all my videos just to make the thumbnail look better. I think it makes the thumbnail probably look a little more interesting than just my face. Um, and in the words of little Steven, uh, if you don't have a look, get one. And I guess this is my look. Gotta have a gimmick. Now, if only I can do something about the reflection in my glasses that I hate, but I don't really know what to do about it. The camera kind of does that, and I'm too low tech and too lazy to figure that crap out. I'm a lazy guy. I'm not here to work. I'm here to talk about comics. So let's talk about this comic. The Singularity. Yeah. This was announced not that long ago, like maybe just like a couple months ago, maybe not even that long. And as you can see, there's a lot of names attached to it. It is the brainchild of Bear McCreary, the musician who you might know from scoring The Walking Dead and Outlander, your dad and your mom's favorite show, or maybe your favorite show. I don't know. But and he's done a bunch of other shit too. He made a comic book slash rock opera with Matt Groom of Power Rangers and is he working on Power Rangers? I don't know if he's working on Power of Ultraman fame. He did the Ultraman comic for Marvel with Kyle Higgins. He also did, I believe, he did Inferno Girl Red with Kyle Higgins's with the Massiverse. So he's a big part of the Massiverse. This is not part of the Massiverse, but it is published by Black Market Narrative, who are the same people that do the Massiverse along with Image Comics. And the sort of creative director of the whole project was Kyle Higgins, who is obviously the originator of the Massiverse. Uh, this comic, I mean, I was already on board. I love multimedia. I really like multimedia projects. So just saying like, oh, we have a concept album slash graphic novel is already going to get my attention. But it's actually really good. Like I mean, the concept alone would have sold me, and I probably would have enjoyed it and told you to read it, even if it wasn't great. But it's actually great. Um, so basically, each song on the album, which is a 2 disc album, it's pretty long. So these credits are all just artists, but there's just as many musicians involved. There's actually a page for that. Yeah, like big list of musicians, and you'll see some names like Brendan Small, who I've been a fan of since I was a kid, Slash from Guns N' Roses, Serge Tankian from System of a Down, Corey Taylor, who I heard sing the SpongeBob theme song once, Scott Ian from Anthrax, and there's some actors too on there. Lee Pace is on there. Um, so yeah, each song on the album uh, corresponds with a chapter in the comic, and each chapter of the comic is a different artist, and they're all written by Bear McCreary and Matt Groom, and then Bear McCreary and Brendan McCreary did the music, did compose the entire album. I read it. I mean, you can listen to the album or you can read the comic. Obviously, I did them in tandem, so I read each page as it corresponded to the album while listening to the album. So it's the slowest comic I read I've ever read. And that was really interesting because I have a problem where I read comics too fast. It's weird. I'm a slow reader when it comes to prose. I tend to reread sentences a lot, but comics are a breezy read. I read a comic like I'm watching TV. And sometimes I don't appreciate the art enough. I don't sit and stare at a comic long enough. When you've got a 5 minute song corresponding to 4 pages of a comic, you got to sit there and stare at the pages if you're waiting for the song to end. And that made me really appreciate the artwork more. And there's a lot of really talented artists on this. Um, so what's it about? I don't want to spoil too much. It's kind of better to go in blind. I didn't know anything about it going in, and that I think is the way to read it. But it is a science fiction epic. Um, yeah, it's a sci-fi comic. It's about someone who is living multiple lives, and uh, each song in each chapter of the comic is a new life that they're living through. At first, I was a little worried it might be too fast paced because it is a heavy metal album. But once it slows down and then actually gets into some dialogue and the story starts slowing down a bit, it's actually a really good story. And there were 2 pages at the end that made me cry. I cried at the end of this one. Um, there were parts where I cheered. There were, it's pretty cool. I said I was going to talk about it for hours, and I'm already like not wanting to say things because I don't want to spoil it. But it's killer. I want people to check this out. Um, let's show some artwork. I'll show. Like, if I'm not going to tell you the story, I should show you some art. My favorite artist on here did 2 chapters. His name is Matthias Bargera, who did Coda. I haven't read Coda, but I'm gonna read Coda now because his artwork is just gorgeous. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that it's got a reminds me of like uh really reminds me of old Frank Miller, to be honest. Um, but there's just a lot of different art styles, and I wish I could show you the page that made me cry, but like I don't want to do that. But yeah, this for the price you're paying too, it's pretty fantastic. I mean, this was a $17 graphic novel. It's a floppy paperback. $17, and the album you can buy or you can listen to on Spotify. So whatever you're paying for your Spotify subscription. So I paid $20 or less depending on how you want to look at it for this, and that is for the hours of enjoyment I got out of it. Really worth it. Check this one out. I've been a huge black market fan for a while. I love black market narrative, and this one was special. It really surprised me. It really got me. I could end the video there, but I won't. I'll talk about everything else I've read this week. Um, this is not just this week's pull list. I've got like 3 weeks of comics piled up now, but I'm just gonna get through it as I get through it, and you'll find out everything I read as I get through it. But first, I'll talk about my free comic book day. Free comic book day was a blast. There were a lot of good books this year. I haven't read a lot of them yet. I've read a few. They're good. I will talk about them when I finish reading them. My personal store, I mentioned, I think, in my last video that Chris Schweizer was coming, and I got to see him, and I was really excited. And I asked him to draw for him, or he was actually doing free drawings. He said, "Do you want me to draw for you?" And I said, "Sure, how much?" And he said, "Oh, it's free comic book day, man." And I was like, "Oh, cool, okay." And I couldn't think of anything, so I said, "Draw Homer Simpson." So here's Chris Schweizer's Homer Simpson in a very nice uh, sort of faux watercolor. It was like a watercolor, but he didn't use watercolors. He like watered his inks. It was really neat. But yeah, he signed it for me. So now I own an original Chris Schweizer sketch. That's really cool, and it didn't cost me shit. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, Chris is a fantastic comic artist. He did the Krogan comics, and he's done a lot of great other stuff. He did great Big Rock County Mountain. I think he did I think he did like covers for a Rick and Morty comic that looked really good. So yeah, go check him out. He's awesome, and I think he's a Southern boy. I think he's a Southerner, or at least he lives around here now. All right. Uh, New issue of Transformers. More of the same. From what I've been a big fan of this one. This issue's pretty good. It's weird to be reading a Transformers comic and think like this writer might be going through some shit. He's, you know, someone, I saw someone, a critic, give this a bad review where they said they thought it was too edgy, but I don't think it's really trying to be edgy. I think it's just like, Transformers is about like war, and it's kind of relating that to like the human side of war, and people who have maybe experienced loss in war, and I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know. It's rude to speculate about a writer's personal life, but it's a story about loss, and that's kind of surprising for Transformers. But good issue. It's going some places, and they introduced some cool new Transformers. The Deviant. I don't think I've talked about this one because it's been a long time since the last issue. So the Deviant is by James Tynion, I believe that's how you pronounce it, who is the king of horror comics right now. Everyone I talk to is like, "Have you been reading James Tynion?" Everyone's a fan. This is my favorite of his work. So from what I've read, The Deviant is a pretty dark personal story about the intersection between queerness and serial killing. It's specifically about how serial killers throughout American history have been equated with queerness even if they weren't LGBT themselves. Um, that's a really dark, fascinating topic. And it takes it from the perspective of someone who their awakening in which they realized they were gay was in learning about a serial killer in their hometown who preyed upon teen boys. It's incredibly dark. It is incredibly rough stuff, but so thought provoking. And like I said, feels very personal. Um, I don't know where it's going. We're 5 issues in, yeah. Um, every issue really feels real on a very interesting level, and the artwork by Hickson. Wait, oh, it's the same artist who did Beneath the Trees Who Where Nobody Sees. The same colorist, at least. I see a familiar name. Um, oh, they did the lettering. Okay, that's cool. That's so funny. Art is by Joshua Hickson. So Joshua Hickson is there. His art is so expressive that when a character's talking, I feel like I can hear their voice. The acting if that makes sense, is so real. The way that they carry themselves or their hand gestures. One character will pose very different than other characters, and you can really feel who they are. It's maybe one of the most real feeling comics I've ever read for that reason. And it's, I think, one of the best horror comics in the market today, and one of the most thought provoking comics I've read in a long time. It'll make you look inside yourself in some interesting ways, and it also is holding a mirror up to society in a way that, like, gosh, like, how much are we harming? How much harm has been done to young LGBT people by the way that they've been equated with crimes throughout history that they didn't even commit. Because I mean, most serial killers are straight, even if they are declared to be queer, and it's really fascinating stuff. If you're into true crime or horror, I highly recommend it. It's rough, but it's worth reading. Beneath the Trees What Nobody Sees, which apparently the letterer for that comic is the artist on this one, and probably the letterer too. This is the finale. It's a good ending. This comic, I think you're mostly reading for the premise. You're mostly reading for the gimmick of its murders with really cool, cute animal artwork. And the artwork's fantastic, but the story doesn't really go anywhere shocking. Like, well, that's a weird thing to say when there's like murder. It is shocking. It's not surprising, I guess. There was no like big twist that knocked me on my ass. Nothing that really made me go, oh shit. Like the Singularity and the Deviant gave me. The Deviant this month gave me an oh shit moment where I was like, fuck. And it wasn't even a murder. It was just something that a character was thinking that was fucked up that made me go, shit. um this comic, it's gory, it's fun. This is more like the more, it's weird to say, the more lighthearted side of serial killing. It does confront the sort of darkness of the characters a bit, but it didn't quite surprise me like the Deviant did. Um, and that is probably damning with faint praise, but it's still a good comic. People are talking about it. I think more people are talking about this than the Deviant. Um, it's a fun horror story. Yeah, I would still check it out, but yeah, I guess maybe I should talk about that one first. And a good finale, like just not if you're looking for a big twist at the end that like shocks you, you're not gonna get that. It's a decent finale. Immortal Thor. I've talked about this so much lately on this video and otherwise. Um, this is the issue following. Wait, did I already talk about this last month? I might have already talked about this. Yeah, whatever. This is the one where they make fun of Marvel. They make fun of the MCU. So the previous issue, the Roxxon Presents Thor, did the whole. It was what Roxxon. It was like making fun of Marvel. This one comes back to the real world of Thor, where he's fighting the Roxxon Thor, but his mind is being infected by the changes Roxxon has made to his continuity, and it's turning him into MCU Thor, where he's like, I can only think in quips, and he's like, it does all the like little, he's just right behind me, isn't he? And he's like, oh, I'm getting dumber, I can't think, and that's really funny. A lot of people were like, "How did they get away with this?" They get away with this because no, they pointed out in the last issue. Nobody gives a shit. You're buying the comic. Disney doesn't care if Disney makes fun of Disney because you're going to keep buying it. And yeah, there is a twist in this one. I won't give it away, but we'll see where it goes. It did surprise me, but for fun little diversion, making fun of the MCU, it's pretty great. Artwork's really good too. We changed artists this month, but it's good. Here's the so far only free comic book day comic I have to talk about, but I'll have more later. Energon Universe. This is the big crossover between all the Energon Universe books so far, and you can tell it has a gorgeous cover by Ryan Otley, and this is the big final reveal of Megatron, who is not, he's been alluded to a lot, but is not fully emerged. Ryan Otley, of course, is the artist behind Invincible, and he does a story in this. So yeah, this gives us Megatron finally. It also gives us some setup for Void Rivals and some setup for G.I. Joe. It's all really cool. If you missed Free Comic Book Day, there is a second copy of this being sold in stores for standard cover price. I have both because I'm a sucker and I just want to know if there are any differences between the two. I don't think there are any differences between the two. So I have the free version and the paid version for my collection. But if you can't get a hold of the free one, which you probably can, there's still a lot of free comic book day piles in different stores. You can buy the normal one. If you're curious about any of the Energon Universe stuff, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals, this gives you at least a look at what the artwork's like and a little taste of each story. At least check it out for Void Rivals. Just take a look at that artwork and tell me you don't want to read more of it. But it's all pretty cool. And that's all I got this week. Thanks for joining me. I just had to recommend those comics to somebody, especially Singularity. Check out the Singularity and Deviant especially, and check out any other comics I mentioned this week. I would love to talk comics with people. Yeah, I'm just rambling now. Y'all have a good night.